Carl Jung didn't give us shallow advice. He didn't hand out motivational slogans or quick steps to happiness. He gave us warnings. He gave us mirrors, and he gave us truth, often uncomfortable, always powerful. He believed that the true war of life isn't out there. It's not your job, not your family, not society. The real war is happening inside you, right now, every single day. You may think you are choosing your path. You may believe you are in control of your life. But Jung would challenge you with one sentence, perhaps the most important rule of all. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let that sink in, because it means this. Most people are not living, they are being lived by something they don't even understand. Your thoughts, your patterns, your fears, your habits, your relationships. They are often ruled by what lies beneath your awareness. You repeat mistakes not because you're weak, but because something in you wants those mistakes. You sabotage yourself not because you're stupid, but because part of you is afraid to win. You attract the wrong people not by accident, but because your inner wound is seeking them. And unless you face what's hidden, nothing will change. That is Jung's rule. That is his challenge, to confront the parts of yourself you've buried, the anger you pretend you don't have, the shame you hide behind humor, the fear you mask with confidence. Because the unconscious doesn't disappear. It waits. It influences. It creates your reality from the shadows. You can build a career, a family, a reputation, but if your unconscious is full of unresolved pain, you will destroy it all eventually. You'll blame others, blame the world, blame bad luck. But it's not the world. It's you, the part of you you refuse to meet. Jung didn't want people to be positive thinkers. He wanted people to be whole, to integrate the shadow, to embrace the monster inside, not to feed it, but to understand it. He believed every person carries a dark side. Call it the shadow. It contains everything you've rejected about yourself. The rage, the envy, the desires, the guilt. You suppress it because it's uncomfortable. But suppressed shadow doesn't die. It gets stronger, and eventually it controls you. Quietly, strategically. It makes you say things you didn't mean. It makes you hurt people you love. It makes you sabotage the very peace you pray for. So what's the solution? Integration, awareness, courage. The moment you admit, yes, I am capable of darkness, you begin to own it instead of it owning you. The most powerful people in the world are not those who wear masks of perfection. They are those who have met their darkness and shook hands with it. They don't run from fear. They walk through it. They don't pretend to be flawless. They've made peace with their flaws. That's the path to wholeness. And wholeness is what Jung considered the true goal of life, not happiness, not success. Wholeness. Because when you are whole, you don't chase validation. You don't fear being alone. You don't collapse when things fall apart. You stand, you adapt, you rebuild. Because your strength is no longer tied to what the world gives you. It's rooted in who you are. This is not easy work. Most people will avoid it. They'll distract themselves with noise, consumption, achievement, relationships. Anything but stillness. Anything but looking inward. Because it's painful to face the truth, but it's more painful to live a lie. Carl Jung taught us that freedom is not found in avoiding the darkness, but in knowing it, naming it, and integrating it into the light. So if there is one rule to live by, if there is one principle that separates the awakened from the asleep, it's this: make the unconscious conscious, or it will control you forever. Your life depends on it. But how do you make the unconscious conscious? That's the question most people never ask, because it demands responsibility. Because once you see what's inside, you can't pretend anymore. You can't blame your past, your parents, your ex, society. You must own your story, every scar, every decision, every self-deception. And that's where the transformation begins. You make the unconscious conscious through brutal honesty, not the kind you post online, the kind you whisper to yourself at 3 a.m. when no one is watching. Ask yourself, why do I react so strongly to rejection? Why do I fear silence? Why do I repeat the same toxic relationships? Why do I sabotage things that are good for me? The answers lie in your shadow, in your childhood, in the moments you've repressed, the pain you've numbed, the parts of you you've disowned. Jung believed we are not born whole, we must become whole. And that becoming is painful, because it's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The world teaches you to wear a mask, to be polite, to be strong, to be liked. But Jung warned, the persona is only a mask for the collective psyche. It's not who you really are. It's who you pretend to be to survive. But survival is not life. Life begins when the mask comes off, when you stop performing and start facing yourself, when you're no longer afraid to be misunderstood, judged, or alone, because you've become friends with your own soul. That's power. That's freedom. That's the inner revolution Jung spoke of. He once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." Most people spend their lives looking outward, chasing status, money, approval, love. They build castles on sand, empires in the air. But the man who dares to look inward, he awakens something eternal. He awakens the self, not the ego. The self is not your image, not your title, not your past. It's the deepest, most authentic core of your being. And here's the truth Jung knew. You cannot live a meaningful life if you are at war with yourself. So the rule, the greatest rule, is not just about psychology. It's about freedom, about reclaiming your soul from the noise of the world, about becoming real in a world addicted to illusions. And you will be tested. The more conscious you become, the more darkness you'll encounter. Not just in the world, but in yourself. You'll see your pride, your manipulation, your neediness, your lies. But don't turn away, don't flinch, because the shadow, when faced, becomes a source of power. It becomes fuel, insight, strength, and through it, you become whole. Jung warned us, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. But he also promised us, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So what is the most important rule of life? It's this: look within, meet your shadow, integrate your darkness, own your soul, and rise, fully awake, fully alive, fully you. Because in a world full of actors, the one who knows himself is unstoppable. There comes a point in every man's life where silence speaks louder than words, where the smile fades, the noise of the world blurs into the background, and something from deep within begins to rise. It's not anger, it's not joy, it's something more ancient, more haunting. It's the realization that you've been asleep while pretending to be awake. That realization, when it comes, is brutal. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or warning. It arrives like a mirror placed quietly before your soul. And this is where Carl Jung's voice echoes through the chambers of the mind. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This isn't a quote, it's a law of the soul. You can ignore it for years, most people do. You can decorate your life with success, people, pleasure, or distractions. You can build a resume, a social media persona, a reputation, but eventually the unconscious finds a way to break through. In a failed relationship, in unexplained anxiety, in addictions, anger, depression, isolation. The unconscious doesn't knock, it invades. And the more you resist it, the more violent its rebellion becomes. Jung understood that we are not whole by default. We are born fragmented, torn between the light we show the world and the dark we bury beneath it. The parts of ourselves we exile, they do not die. They form what Jung called the shadow. What is the shadow? It's everything about yourself you've been taught to hate. Your envy, your rage, your lust, your weakness, your fear. But it's also your power, your creativity, your intensity, your individuality. All of it lives in the shadow. And the longer you refuse to look at it, the more it controls you from below. You see, this is the tragedy of most lives. We chase happiness, but we ignore wholeness. We seek love, but we run from our own wounds. We try to be good, but we forget to be real. And so we live half-lives, smiling outside, screaming inside. Loved by others, unknown to ourselves. safe, but never truly alive. Carl Jung wanted none of that. He didn't care if you looked enlightened. He cared if you had the courage to become. And becoming, true becoming, is not a path of comfort. It's a descent, a fall into the very parts of yourself you fear, into the trauma you dismissed, into the emotions you suppress, into the dreams you abandoned to become acceptable. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Jung. But who are you really? Not the version your parents needed you to be, not the mask you wear at work, not the image you maintain for social survival. You are something deeper, something chaotic, something sacred, and the journey to discover that something is the journey through the unconscious. Jung's work was not about surface-level healing. It was about the alchemy of the soul, turning suffering into understanding, turning wounds into wisdom, turning chaos into character. But there's a price, and that price is radical honesty. To look at your life and say, yes, I'm still angry about my childhood. Yes, I crave validation more than I admit. Yes, I manipulate people to feel secure. Yes, I'm scared of being truly seen. That kind of honesty doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because now you are beginning to wake up. Now you are no longer just a puppet of the unconscious. You are becoming its master. You start to notice your patterns. Why you're drawn to the same type of person. Why you fall apart when things go well. Why you sabotage what you love. It's not random. It's familiar. It's your shadow, playing out the same script, hoping you'll finally pay attention. And when you do, when you finally turn toward the monster in the dark, it doesn't devour you, it transforms you. Because the shadow, once integrated, becomes your ally. The anger becomes assertion, the fear becomes awareness, the pain becomes depth, the ego becomes tool, not master. You begin to live from a place of centered power, not performance. This is the essence of Jung's rule. To be free, you must see. To see, you must feel. To feel, you must stop running. And so few ever do. Because the truth is not comfortable. But Jung wasn't offering comfort. He was offering transformation. He believed that the highest goal of life isn't happiness, it's individuation. The process of becoming a complete, whole human being. That process will burn away everything false, your masks, your compulsions, your defenses. But in the ashes, something new emerges, the authentic self, the self that doesn't chase, doesn't pretend, doesn't need to control, the self that is rooted, sovereign, present. And in that self, there is peace, not the peace of avoiding pain, but the peace of knowing who you are. You've met your demons. You've walked through the underworld. You've reclaimed your soul. That is the real meaning of Jung's most important rule. It's not a warning, it's a map back to yourself. So the real question is not, what do you want out of life? The real question is, are you willing to meet yourself fully, no matter what you find? Because until you do, you're not living your life. You're living your shadows.